Forget Jesus Luzardo. Forget Braxton Garrett. I focus on one pitcher from the Marlins, one starter. And the Mets also made a move. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Hope and well. Happy Sunday. Thank you for everybody that came on last night in the live stream. We talked about 4 big trades that could shake up the offseason. I loved everybody's feedback. It's always nice to have that type of discussion with you, gang. And I'm going to continue doing it. So if for some reason you're not subbed to this channel, hit that button right now. That way you can continue taking part of these discussions and having some fun. And hit the notification bell. That way when news does come in, you're going to be at the front of the line to get it. I thank you so much for both. Now, why do I say forget Jesus Luzardo? Well, and forget Braxton Garrett. Well, Jesus Luzardo went from 100 innings pitched in 2022 to 178 innings pitched in 2023. Braxton Garrett went from 99 innings pitched in 2022, 88 innings pitched, excuse me, in 2022 to 159 in 2023. Notice a drastic increase. Who got injured 3 times last year because of an increase like that? Nestor Cortez. Okay, I would steer clear of that. And I think the Marlins are trying to sell high on Luzardo, which is why they're asking for so much. And I think they wouldn't hesitate to move on from him if they got what they wanted. So those are dangerous red flags for me. I worry about them getting injured multiple times, elbow, shoulder, whatever else. And I think Luzardo has had elbow problems before. So that type of increase in workload is dangerous, which is why I'm a big proponent of having a couple of guys in long relief so that they don't have to do that to starting pitchers. Yankees, right? Edward Cabrera went from 71 innings pitched in 2022 to 99 innings pitched in 2023, a more representative increase in innings pitched. He increased by 20 instead of 80. Okay, that's a big difference in terms of innings pitched. He's a big, strong right-handed pitcher, and I would rather have a guy who has that type of workload rather than somebody who has a massive increase in workload who's could be on the verge of getting hurt or falling apart. Just don't know. So for those reasons, I would choose Edward Cabrera, who's also 25 with 5 years of control, over Luzardo, over Braxton Garrett. Now, I know the Yankees are apparently, according to Bob Nightingale, are in active discussions with the Marlins about Luzardo. I still think the asking price is going to be through the roof. There's no way in the world I'd give up Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez for either. So this is where I think Edward Cabrera comes into play. And we've talked about this last night, right? And there's a lot of fans that are asking or are recommending that we trade Spencer Jones for Dylan Cease. Cease doesn't have a track record, okay? He can throw innings, yeah, but his up and down performance does not justify parting with Spencer Jones for him, and then some after that. The one proposal was Spencer Jones, Will Warren, and Chase Hampton. That's on planet crazy. No way. Okay, so I wouldn't do that. Now, people are inclined to disagree and agree. That's totally fine. But if I'm going to hone in on one pitcher from the Marlins, it's going to be Edward Cabrera. Other than that, I'll pivot to the Mariners for Logan Gilbert or Brian Wu or a Bryce Miller or something like that. I would choose those 3 guys before I even look at Luis Castillo, who can throw innings, but he's also 31, is on a huge contract. So, and even though the reports are saying now Hal's given them the green light to bring in a big arm, a.k.a. go over the Cohen threshold. Okay, for those that were on last night, they're at $287 million right now. Their payroll. That's $10 million under the threshold. That also includes the projected numbers for arbitration figures, which have to be submitted on Friday. So that number could go up, that number could go down. I'm going to wait and see. And the Yankees will have a better idea of how much money they can play with, how much wiggle room they have to add what they need to add. And I'm of the opinion, too, that they would need to add 2 starting pitchers. But if they add 1, at the very least, I would have a guy who's not coming, walking into a hornet's nest. And I have a feeling that Braxton Garrett and Jesus Luzardo might be walking into a hornet's nest. And that's another reason why I would have a guy like Edward Cabrera on here. So, and we'd be able to protect him a little bit more, and he can go from 100 to 125, 130 innings pitched, stay there. And again, this is why we'd have, let's say, like if you can get 25 games out of him for 5 or 6 innings a pop, that's pretty good. I would stay there. I would not go anything beyond that this year. And then I would have guys like Nestor Cortes or Yoendris Gomez or Luis Hill, either spot starting or coming in long relief. I would intentionally cap him at 5 innings probably to protect them this year. Okay, we're going to make a trade. We're going to trade big pieces for guys like this. I want to make sure they do it the right way and don't just throw them to the wolves. Again, but this is me trying to put in logic into these moves. Doesn't always make people happy, but that's just the way I do it. Okay. Now, you let me know what your thoughts are there on that regard. So now, how about the move? The Mets. This is according to MLBTradeRumors.com. All right, the New York Mets have reached an agreement with left-handed pitcher Sean Manaea. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling the Mets were going to go down this road, making some incremental moves instead of big moves. I mean, I think they learned their lesson from their big moves last year that didn't pan out. So this is right from John Heyman in the New York Post, and it's on MLBTradeRumors.com. A 2-year deal for $28 million, $14 million per year. It's more representative of the type of moves I think the Mets are going to make. They've been slowly bringing in, and this is the second arm in the starting rotation. They've added Luis Severino, former Yankee. Now they've added Sean Manaea, so they're getting depth. I wouldn't be surprised if they land Shota Managa either. Okay? And they would have a whole new look in their rotation. I wouldn't be surprised if they add a reliever as well. So they've added Harrison Bader to the outfield. They've added Carlos Mendoza as their new manager. So it does have some ex-Yankee feel there. But with that said, I think this move is fine for the Mets. And I think it's more in line with what I think Steve Cohen's going to do at the very least this year. But give me your thoughts on the logic behind the Marlins pitchers. My logic behind the Marlins pitchers. Whether you agree, whether you disagree. I think it's important, and I wanted to point out the Nestor Cortes injury because he was on the DL 3 times last year. Twice because of the shoulder. So, and before that, he had that massive increase in innings pitched. And I worry about the same thing for like a guy like Jesus Luzardo and Braxton Garrett. I've talked about them, and I've said this before, but if I had to choose between the three, it would be Cabrera. And I would not hesitate to add another pitcher after that, okay? Maybe from the left-handed side. But we'll see. I mean, this is where the Yankees can make a trade for a pitcher too. Or sign a lefty in free agency, a non-flashy lefty. Like Sean Manaea would have been a depth piece after an Edward Cabrera or something like that. But that's no longer. He's a Met now. So, but let me know what your thoughts are, gang. I'm really, really curious to know what your take is. And again, the Marlins and Mariners represent the most logical trade fits for the Yankees. The prices for Dylan Cease are through the roof right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get moved at all. I wouldn't. Corbin Burns, if that price comes down a little bit, if they can not have to give a Will Warren or a Chase Hampton, that's something I would consider. But the fact is he's going to cost after this year. His arbitration figure is at about 15, 16 million this year. He's probably going to make 30 million a year next year. So will they re-sign him? I don't know. That's a risk they have to take. So that way, if I get a guy like Corbin Burns who's got 1 year left, I also want to get a controllable pitcher like Edward Cabrera who has 5 years left on the cheap. So not just the Corbin Burns. That's why I wouldn't want to choose between the two of them. I'd rather have both. One of them being on the cheap. So, but you let me know what you think, gang. And have a great day. Stay dry. It's misty. It's nasty out here. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next time.